Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about a lot of trailers. Those 3 new trailers got released, including 2 Disney Plus originals, Diary of a Future President, and also Timmy Failure, Mistakes Were Made. We'll also be talking about some of the news of this week. So before we get into all of that, just a quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do subscribe to the audio or video platforms. Kind of keep up with the latest podcasts as well. And you can go check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Currently doing a giveaway as well over on the website for a $50 Amazon gift card. So jump in and kind of have a look at that on there while you're over there. Also, a big thank you to our patrons as well. Big thank you to Andrew, also to Giuseppe, also to Julie, Russell, and What's on Disney Plus, and Yuan for all of your support. Really does make all the difference, especially in this post-Copa age where I didn't quite know what was going to be going on. So big thank you for all of your support. Tomorrow there will be a special episode of our retro review where we're going to be doing the 101 Dalmatians. So be sure to keep an ear out for that one. So let's jump into some of the news. So first off, I think probably the big one in terms of Disney Plus was apparently the Lizzie McGuire creator has left the Disney Plus revival or reboot, depending on how you want to call it. She is apparently has high expectations, but after filming the 2 episodes, they concluded that they needed to move in a different creative direction and are putting a new lens on the show. So the show is currently in sort of stopped production, but I think, to be honest, I think that was happening anyway because Hilary Duff is on a honeymoon. So I think it's almost like, to me, it sounds a bit like they've stopped for the break and then kind of realized that actually maybe things weren't quite going the way they wanted. Did you catch up on this?
You summarized pretty much as I know about it. Not really a show that I'm really all that excited for, but again, target audience. We say that a lot, but yeah, target audience.
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, she's been kind of created a number of different shows. She also created Annie Mac and Lizzie McGuire. But yeah, I think apparently she's done this before with Lizzie McGuire as well, where she's kind of started and then they kind of pulled off and went off somewhere else. So she might be that kind of thing of Greta coming up with ideas and then they've kind of got to move on with it. But not good news for it to begin with, because obviously hopefully it won't be delayed. Hopefully they'll find a showrunner quite quickly. But the fact that they've already got 2 episodes kind of in the can. But in some ways, is it better that they do it now while it's still in the, they can maybe reshoot some bits if they feel need to. And so we won't really notice. I still think it'll be coming out this year. I don't think this one's going to take too long to get in the can. The script's already made, so they've just probably got to tweak it a little bit. But yeah, that was a big Disney Plus news for one of them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, not a show I'm interested in, but I realize Lizzie McGuire has a big following from back in the day, so anything that disrupts it isn't great news. And hopefully whoever they find will be able to keep it on track.
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, it's like this series I'm a little bit more interested in like, I've never seen the original at all. I think I maybe seen one episode, but generally the reboot or the revival is at least a little bit more interesting because they were adults rather than like, I'm not interested in watching the original show now, but just because they were adults, I'll probably, and it's a drama, I would check it out. So, but then I'll be coming in almost with fresh eyes because I haven't got that nostalgia goggles. I'll be looking at it directly as what it is. But yeah, not good news, but hopefully then they will sort that one out. Some other big news we've got is some new details on the upcoming Disney Plus original movie, Godmothered, which had been reported to be renamed Froze, but maybe they've gone back to Godmothered, which I think was better anyway. Which is going to be directed by Sharon Maguire, who did the Bridget Jones movies. It's going to star Jillian Bell as the young and unskilled fairy godmother that ventures out on her own to prove her worth by tracking down a young girl whose request for help was ignored. What she discovers is that the girl has now become a grown woman, which is going to be played by Isla Fisher, and in need of something very different than a Prince Charming. So yeah, Jillian, she previously starred in Brittany Runs a Marathon, while Isla Fisher has appeared in Confessions of a Shopaholic. And I also used to watch her in the Australian soap Home and Away for years when I was a kid, as a teenager. So it's that kind of thing of like, to me, it's like, yeah, she was in it for like, I don't know, 5-10 years as growing up. So that's it really as far as me. But I think it's an interesting cast. I think Jillian Bell actually could bring quite a little bit of humor to it. Because I've seen her in quite a few different shows, movies and stuff. I think that's quite a good casting, really. Okay, I think that will work out quite well.
I'm not familiar with either of them. Haven't
No.
seen any of the things that they're in, or at least not the famous ones. But it is a good pedigree. It's a good listing of past works, so I have faith. And we know it's going directly to Disney Plus, which means we can set our expectations appropriately. Definitely watching it with interest. Looking forward to seeing some stills come out of the production when they get to that, some trailers when we get to that time period. But for right now, I'm just like, yeah, cool. 2 people.
Yes.
I'm sure they're very good.
Yeah, it's also that thing as well, isn't it? Of like, it's a Cinderella kind of prequel, but I don't think it's an actual proper prequel. I think it's different. Yeah.
Aside from the fact that it's the Godmother or the fairy godmother, it doesn't seem like it's got any connection at all, honestly.
No. And now we got another one that's just broke overnight before, and I haven't even mentioned this one to James yet, and I think this one is so far up his street. Apparently Disney is set to do a remake of the 1980s teen space drama Space Camp for Disney Plus. The Hollywood Reporter is saying that apparently some of the Saturday Night Live writers are being hired to write the script, and yeah, so that's something. I've never seen that one either. That again, Space Camp. I don't remember that one, but that kind of seems up your wheelhouse.
I have seen it. It's a really bad movie, but it's bad in a fun way. You know, just bring some popcorn and ignore all of the problems with the movie and just enjoy it for what it is. But that said, no one should really be rushing out to see it.
No.
Whatever this new project is.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Well, I think they're definitely kind of doing that, of kind of going back and looking at stuff. And it is one of those really weird things. And because for every time there's something that's announced about a sequel or a reboot or a thing like that, everyone kind of gets up and down and go, oh, why don't they do anything original? Why don't they do this? And it's like, it's like, I see it so often with like the articles and the videos and stuff like that of, I put up like a story about a new original, like, I don't know, Timmy Failure, and it gets like, results. You put up something about a prequel or reboot, it instantly is 20 to 30 times the interest that it was in the original one. And I can see why, you can see how these kind of things happen where they're looking at the details going, people get so much more excited about stuff they already know. And it is a shame because there's some great new stuff coming soon. But, things like reboots and sequels and stuff, they just seem to be hitting the mark. I think in a world where we've got so much content being given to us through different channels and streaming networks, people are much less likely to take a punt on something they've never heard of at a certain level.
Yeah, and even if you didn't know there was a Space Camp movie, I think the actual Space Camp is well enough known that people can latch onto it in that regard as well. I will say the only reason to go back and watch the original Space Camp is to see a very, very young Joaquin Phoenix. You might know as the Joker from recent movies. I don't even know which character he is, honestly, but apparently he's in it as a kid.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. A few other little bits and pieces. Apparently, Marvel is looking for some young actors at the moment, which is expected to be for the new upcoming Loki series. They're looking for a boy and a girl, though we don't really know too much more about that just yet. They've not really kind of gone into too much detail. Been a number of, it's kind of like award season right now, so there's lots of nominations and lots of awards going out. Disney's Plus's High School Original High School Musical the series got nominated for a GLAAD award, which was great to hear. Also, in the Visual Effects Society, The Mandalorian was up for like 6 awards, and Lady and the Tramp was also nominated for a couple of awards. And obviously as well, we've been having Golden Globes, you've been having the whole host of different things being announced at BAFTAs, featuring like Toy Story 4 and Frozen 2 and Endgame and Rise of Skywalker. So there's lots of things going around like that one. It was a little bit of a shock to see Disney not pick up the the Golden Globe for the best animated movie. That went to Missing Link, but I still believe that, I think, in all honesty, picking up Toy Story 4 and Frozen 2 and The Lion King, though they didn't want to admit that one, it was a bit like, I think if I was voting for that, it would be a bit like, yeah, these are all prequels and sequels and reboots. I'll vote for something original. And I think that's probably what happened in this one.
Yeah, and they all did very well at the box office, but their cultural impact wasn't that high. Yeah. No one's really talking about them. That said, I don't really know anyone talking about The Missing Link either.
No.
So it might have just been a dud year all around. In terms of that category.
It's that thing like, Frozen 2 and Toy Story 4 and Lion King are great movies, very well done, but high polished productions. There wasn't anything new or exciting really there. I suppose Lion King kind of did push the boundaries in terms of visual effects and stuff, in terms of what it was, even though Disney kind of seemed to flat out deny any existence the fact that The Lion King is an animated movie, because when they put up like the nominations, on the Lion King one, they never put that they got nominated for that one. They never. It's like they did for everyone else. It's like, yeah, no, but it's not animated. Well, I think like the first second where the sun comes up is the only thing that's like real in the whole movie.
No, it's 100% live action. I don't know what you're talking about here.
It's just like, I think they definitely seem to be like just so funny with that, of where they're so desperate to the idea of like, no, it's not animated, but nevertheless. We also saw some new details apparently on the Willow series is now in production, because the writer who co-wrote Solo: A Star Wars Story, Josh Kasdan, he put up a picture of a Willow hat on a chalkboard and basically just said, now at work, basically, on this new series. So I think that'll be a while away, but nice to kind of see them now sort of out there publicly saying what they're doing.
Yeah, it's still a long way off. Plenty of time to go and watch the old movie if you want to see it. It's up on Disney Plus. But always good to see forward movement on projects like these.
That's good. Also some forward movement on Avatar 2. There was some new concept art that got shown off, though that kind of looked like there's an expansion to the Flight of Passage ride at the Animal Kingdom with them riding the Banshees. And I'll be honest, I was playing a level of Jedi Fallen Order this week, and it was this whole scene, and it just felt like it came straight out of Avatar, where I was flying around on top of a creature. And yeah, Avatar 2, I think it looks great. I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go with this. I think Disney are really going to get behind this. How they're promoting, and the fact they had this brand new special edition car come out at the Mercedes event where they showed this information off. Like, they were already kind of doing the tie-ins, and I don't know. I think it kind of feels a bit like, I think Disney are going to get so on board with Avatar this time around.
You know what? If they want to put the money behind it, then good for them. I am completely apathetic on this project, honestly. The first movie was fun.
Yeah.
And I know it made a ton of money, which is obviously what Disney is hoping for on the sequel. But honestly, I don't remember it at all. I remember bits and pieces, no quotes, no standout characters, no standout acting. They are going to have to try really hard to justify Avatar 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
The thing is,
they're going to have amazing reviews to convince people that this is a movie worth coming back to. But we'll see.
Yes. I mean, I watched it, probably last time I watched it was about 2 years ago, because I watched it before we went out to Florida, because the Pandora, the Avatar area was there, and I wanted to kind of remind myself before I went. I really liked it. I thought it was good. I do think at the time, had you taken away the 3D effect, because this was like one of the first big movies to do the 3D effect, and it meant like a bump in price in ticket sales. So therefore, it pushed up the price that it brought in at the box office higher than anything else, because it was the first big movie in 3D. Of course, since then, 3D kind of dropped off, and everyone is kind of, I mean, I don't seem to be promoting 3D in any which way now at the cinema.
I don't think that most people want to see 3D. The thing that made Avatar good with the 3D was that it actually implemented it well.
Yeah.
you felt like you were in Pandora. The colors popped, which was new for 3D, but it became such a gimmick and it was implemented so poorly in just about everything after. And people quickly saw through that it was just, no, we want to charge more for movies and we want to be able to prevent people from pirating movies by copying them at the theater, because it's much harder to do a camera whatever for 3D. And people are just like, no, we're not spending the money on that. So yeah, I don't think you can even buy 3D TVs anymore. You'd have to go to like a specialty store for it.
Yeah, I always just hated the fact of having to wear 2 pairs of glasses during the cinema was not the most comfortable thing to do. Different for a 15-minute show at the Disney parks, and you know the Muppets are kind of it's like, ooh.
I love that the Muppet Vision 3D. I love that one. I've seen it so many times. I don't actually need to see the show anymore, but it's fun watching the crowd and the little kids. The first time Fozzie pops the little can with the worms in it, and all the kids. It's fun watching. I love that show.
I think that's, as a park fan, it was always the thing of 3D movies, of kind of expecting that kind of cheap gag, and the cinema it doesn't have that effect. Other than the thing is, it's like, I mean, just going on with that 3D thing, we were watching Jackass 3 the other day, and that was the whole thing of they had this whole big thing at the beginning which was all set in 3D, and like watching it 10 years later not on a 3D TV, it's like all of this stuff is just lost on a 2D set, because all the little cheap gags they were doing, because they just don't work on a normal TV. It just looks like, well, okay, that you're throwing stuff at the television, doesn't work. But nevertheless, that's a tangent on 3D movies. I think that's kind of, that was the majority of it. Oh, there was also the Peter Pan live action movie. Some more details are coming out. It might be called Peter Pan and Wendy, and it's just another Peter Pan live action. We don't know yet if that's going to be a cinema release or a Disney Plus release. I've got a feeling this might end up being a sort of mainline cinema way. So it's not on the schedule yet. I don't know, but we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. It seems definitely in the early step at the minute.
I suspect that Disney is also on the wait and see on this. They want to see what the quality of it is before they decide. Disney Plus, which will be the new direct-to-video kind of outlet, or it's higher quality than direct-to-video. It's not the great comparison, because that probably makes people think of like Little Mermaid 2 and 3 and Cinderella 2 and 3 and all that stuff. But whether they want to put the CGI budget towards it, because that there is quite a bit of Peter Pan that requires special effects and visual effects. So we'll wait and see. It could be good. And also important to note, as it says in the article on the site, not to be confused with Wendy, the Fox movie coming out later this year.
Yeah, I do think, they're obviously, when they put the budgets together, I think the point is then at that thing of where does it go, Disney Plus or go to the movie, really comes down to, is it a $30 to $40 million budget, or is it a $90 million budget? The $40 budget, that's probably Netflix. So I think they spent like 120 million on that 6 Underground Jerry Bruckheimer Ryan Reynolds movie. They spent an absolute fortune making that one there. But
I have to admit, that was kind of a fun movie. I would have felt ripped off watching it in theaters, but it was kind of stupid fun to watch at home.
It definitely was. It's definitely worth checking out. It was that kind of thing of going, Ryan Reynolds for me, instant sell, and then I love things like The Rock and Bad Boys, and just blow stuff up and show off fancy cars. That's fine. It's you don't have to worry about it. But we're not going to be getting anything like that on Disney Plus for a while.
Not R-rated anyway.
No, not R-rated. So before we get into the trailers, I just wanted to. There's a lot of news this week because of the television winter press event which was taking place out in America this week. And while there didn't seem to be a huge amount from the Disney Channel stuff or the National Geographic that might be next week coming up, there's a lot of discussion about Fox, especially FX. There's a lot of talk about that with Hulu, because FX on Hulu starts in March. They're going to be bringing all of the library, as much of the library as they possibly can, thousands of episodes over to Hulu in March. They're going to be bringing lots of originals that they made specifically for Hulu. They're also going to be launching a number of shows all around the same time. Normally they kind of stretched them out a little bit more, but they've kind of really hitting of like trying to get as much on Hulu as possible. And just in general, it looks like FX and Hulu. FX is becoming like the Disney Plus brands where you've got like Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, National Geographic. FX is now becoming like Hulu's version of that, of like FX stuff is all on here. The creators and the people at the top of FX look to be very excited about integrating their content in with Hulu because they feel like that's a brand new audience and getting to a younger audience, and this is the future of FX. And I think they've really kind of looked like they're embracing this whole side, and nice to see Hulu kind of getting a little bit of kind of love, because obviously all the attention's on Disney Plus right now. But I kind of quite like the idea that FX is kind of becoming, now that is specifically Hulu's side of things. Is the 20th Century Fox stuff is still a bit hit and miss of which way it's going to go. Whereas I think, if they've got Searchlight and if they've got FX as part of the Hulu line, that's going to be a strong thing for them for new original content.
Yeah, and FX has built up a good name for itself over the last couple of years. I know for myself, I've been watching Fargo, eagerly awaiting the next season of that. Pretty sure there's another season of that coming. Probably shouldn't be called Fargo anymore because it hasn't actually taken place in Fargo since like season 2, but that's not the point. Yeah, FX is it's carving out its own name, and if Disney can continue to let that happen without hindering it, without trying to turn it into a kiddie program or tone it down, I think a lot of people will continue to watch that. It's got its audience.
I mean, I'm just looking here at kind of the names of shows that are on there at the minute, like American Horror Story, which I know my wife liked the first few seasons, Christmas Carol, Pose, Atlanta, Mayans, MC, Fargo, Miss America, that's going to be a new thing coming, which I think might even be Hulu exclusive. We've also got things like Taboo, Sons of Anarchy, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The Americans, Archer, American Crime Story, which I must admit, American Crime Story, I'm sure if that was the one with O.J. Simpson's that was on. Was that?
That was, I think, the inaugural season of it, and they kind of turned it into a thing. Isn't The Gifted is also over there? I thought that was a pretty good show.
Yeah, they had The Gifted and Legion. They were ones that were on there, and just I mean, we had here Breaking Bad, The Shield, The League. Just looking here, Strain. Actually, me and my wife really liked that series. Well, that was all about vampires and stuff. This again, it's just a very different level of content. But having that on Hulu, and I think this is where this whole thing of if Disney can get this thing right, and I think they need to be a little bit more clear about it. It's difficult with the HBO deal with Fox movies of trying to work out exactly, ABC, FX, Searchlight, Fox is here, and then you got Disney over here. Bring them together in the bundle, and that's what they're offering. They just need to get better connect. They need to connect up them better and a bit more clarity of what's going on with them. But I just thought it was very good to see FX has been really promoted as one of the key cornerstones of Hulu, which I think Hulu needs because it's it loses that track of everything that's going on with Netflix originals, and Amazon's doing their thing, Apple's doing their thing, but Hulu was kind of like lost in the shuffle of not having a huge amount of originals. And with them losing the NBC shows and they're losing all this other content, they are getting Hulu ready for when they completely outright own it and it's only on its own. And I think FX is going to be a major part of Hulu going forward.
It sounds like they could probably make the lineup just off the FX titles on its own, practically. But like I said, so long as they can keep the quality, I think it will be a selling point because you listed off a ton of titles there, which are, have a lot of good positive buzz, and the ones that I've seen are, I could back it up. They're very good.
But also, I think once this HBO deal runs out with 20th Century Fox, if you start getting the Searchlight movies, I mean, they have like 10 to 12 movies a year. That could be a monthly drop. Then you've got things like Underwater, which are just coming out now. I think the Fox titles are a little bit hit and miss because some of the big titles we've got coming out, like Free Guy and Call to the Wild, kind of fall more into the Disney side of things because they're a bit more mainstream, I think. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot easier, but we're going to wait to the end of next year, really, before all this HBO mess gets sorted out with that existing contract. But yeah, just nice to see Hulu getting a little bit of a love this week.
Yeah, the existing contracts, not just with HBO, but in general, have really been the thorn. I think we talked about that last week with some of those titles getting delisted. Obviously, the Three Musketeers came back this week, but it's not going to be the end of that story, not for a while.
No, this is going to be a constant rolling thing. I just hope that Disney are a little bit of maybe listen to the feedback and start at least acknowledging what's coming up, and as well as saying what's coming to Disney Plus, say what's leaving, so people are more, so it's less of a shock, and get that out there and get people used to it. If we know that a few titles are leaving each month, then, and also sometimes maybe if a title is lost but it's not been announced, maybe maybe it's just being repaired or replaced or whatever. But it definitely seems like that's going to be a form we're going to be having this for years, and then even then, years down the line, we might be having other issues with movies going back to Netflix temporarily if they can't get out of that contract. I think we just need to I think most people need to accept that it's not completely permanent, and there are going to be some shifts in stuff. But obviously, all the things like right now that are being released, you don't have to worry about it. But let's now move on to some trailer reactions. So we had 3 big trailers this week. We had New Mutants, we had Diary of a Future President, and also Timmy Failure, Mistakes Were Made. So let's start off with the Disney Plus ones. So, Diary of a Future President, what did you think of that trailer?
Pretty standard teen or young teen comedy. Not really sure, based on the trailer, how the actual president side of it is going to be, how much of the show is going to be her as the president looking back. I assume it'll probably just be the bookends. Start the show. I remember this time because she's reading her journal. And then we fade to black and go into the present time, and then maybe end with her reminiscing or stating the moral. Otherwise, nothing that really makes it stand out yet. Yeah. But we'll see. It's only one trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it, and I literally watched it again just before we went live recording, because it was like, I was starting going, okay, it came out a few days ago, and I don't remember any of it. Which was, and I'd seen the trailer, and it's like, I watched it again, and I was like, yeah, it's like this, it's almost that thing of like the kids are that little bit too much younger, where it kind of goes, because it's obviously set at middle school, and yeah, I was just a bit like, yeah, this is not for me. I'll watch it, I'll give it a go, because I mean, I was wrong about High School Musical, but it's not got any excitement level for me personally. It's just not like, yeah, okay, it's fine. It's not for me, but I'm sure it'll be great. I do think as well I've seen this already. The naming of it has slightly toned down the issues of people reacting to it, since they changed the name and changed future or female to future. That has seemed to have helped kind of settle down all the problems. It's a bit like, well, now we've seen the trailer and we know what it is. Like, yeah, okay, this is just what it is. It is going to pull in some remarks and stuff, but I think the audience aren't really going to worry too much about it. The first episode drops this coming Friday on the 17th. So next week we'll actually be able to say what we actually think of the show, but again, even that, of like, even just dropping the trailer just 2 weeks before the show drops was like, they didn't really seem to want to push this while The Mandalorian was around. That's how it feels.
Well, I don't think they wanted to push anything while The Mandalorian was still pumping out new episodes. And also, I think it might be a little more calculated than that, because streaming works differently than movies. Movies, you want to let people know long way in advance, this is going to be worth your $10, $15, $20, however much you pay. But if you announce a streaming show, and it's not going to come out for 3 months, by the time it comes out, people will forget about it. Yeah. So have the trailer, and then boom, 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 episode is right here, ready to go. It makes sense.
Yeah, because they haven't got that whole thing as well. They're not trying to advertise you to go off and go to the cinema or anything like that. It's literally, oh no, you can sign up right now and you can do all that. So yeah, it should be fun. Definitely gonna watch it next week. I want to see how this all works out. Especially now that with High School Musical, the series ending yesterday, we've got no new dramas. So this is kind of filling in the Disney drama side of things. And we've got a few more weeks before. We've got at least another 4 to 6 weeks before the Clone Wars kicks up. But yeah, we'll see what that one's like. Moving out on to Timmy Failure. So this one's going to be dropping on February the 7th. Mistakes were made. What did you think of that trailer?
I enjoyed it, actually. It's random, which isn't really my thing, the polar bear and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it looks a little bit more authentic. It looks like it's a little bit more fun.
Yeah. I watched it because I think the polar bear is an imaginary friend, so that's the kind of thing of why it's there. It looked like a kids TV, a kids movie that that would come on during the kids' holidays, wherever it is, and it's just fun. And this is the kind of movie that doesn't get made very much anymore because it's not big enough box office draw, but they're a lot of fun. I think this one looks good. I think the thing is, if they get this right, I think there's quite a few books, so it could become a bit of a series. I think that's why we got the name change from Timmy Failure to Timmy Failure. Mistakes were made because that lies in with the book, and then they can kind of they work on it quick while the kid's still young. They might be able to get out like 3 or 4 movies if this one streams well and people react to it. I thought the trailer looked great. It's going to be at the Sundance Festival later this month. Again, they've dropped the trailer about just under a month before the movie hits, which I think is about right for the movies. I think that's the good thing for them. But yeah, I'm following in. I'm quite happy to give this one a go. I'm kind of glad that it's February because I wasn't expecting a movie in February. And then we've got another movie coming in March with Stargirl coming a month later. So that'll be quite nice to maybe start having, nearly maybe every 4 to 6 weeks, a new Disney Plus original movie. That'll be quite nice. I wasn't expecting them that quick. But yeah, Timmy Failure, I was like, yeah. There was that one scene where we went over the edge in a waterfall that looked a little naff. I do think with these movies, they've got to I think they need to tone back on the CGI a little bit of when they're setting them up of going, we haven't got the budget to do this, so we maybe need to be a little bit more smarter with it.
Yeah, and I think people appreciate practical effects more. It's all about using the budget the right way. And if you're doing a television movie and you're relying on CGI, you have to do it the right way. And I have to agree with you. That part of the trailer is like, maybe not. On the other hand, it's not nearly as bad as we saw with that Harrison Ford movie, Into the Wild or whatever it was called. It's like that, yeah. But one scene, okay, sure, tolerable, especially since you don't actually want to throw a kid over a waterfall. I mean, maybe
some
you do.
Kids do.
Maybe some kids you do, but you don't admit it publicly. And you definitely don't film it. But yeah, the fact that it's being shown at Sundance suggests that Disney has a lot of confidence in this. So I'm interested. I'll take a look at it when it comes out.
Yeah, I just think as well, like the kid Rush riding around on a Segway with his polar bear, it just looks just fun, and I think that's just the way it is. And the way that the kid just looks kind of reminds me of that meme with the boy that kind of like shakes his head that you saw all the time. He's just sitting there like, really. But yeah, it just sort of sits there. Yes, mistakes were made. It's just like the way they definitely drop in that tone in there that's his little catchphrase or whatever. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. This is, again, I think when you look at movies, you look at them in a very different light to a TV series because it's a one-shot go. And yeah, I think this looks good. February's looking not quite as barren as I was expecting. With Timmy Failure, we've also got the Clone Wars, and we've got Toy Story 4 dropping, and we've got Lamp Life that's going to be dropping on the 31st of January as well, which, yeah, just kind of, we've got a little bit more February in that kind of period than I was hoping for, and I think that could be a good thing.
They need the content. I mean, obviously, it's not The Mandalorian. It's not WandaVision, Loki, one of the huge major draw titles. But, yeah, simply having something. This is new. We made it for this. Enjoy it. They need that. Yeah,
I still think that Disney Plus is really like lacking with the fact of, I think it needed Falcon and the Winter Soldier like either now or maybe March or something, just to kind of keep that momentum building. But I think next winter or in the winter we're going to start seeing that kick in much better. But let's move now on to another trailer, which was Marvel's New Mutants, which is going to be coming to cinemas in April. It is coming to cinemas. It is not going to Hulu or Disney Plus. It is still rated PG-13, and it's not an R-rated. What did you think of that trailer?
It didn't look totally awful. It looked better than I expected. However, my expectations were middling somewhere in the basement, so that's not really saying anything. It still doesn't look particularly good. I'm not going to be jumping straight to the theater to see this. I might not even see it in theaters at all unless the reviews are really surprisingly good. But it does look better than I was expecting it to look.
Yeah, the trouble is for me is if you took the Marvel logo away from the beginning and that's it, I don't know if this was like just a random horror movie or I don't know. It's like I know they are X-Men and all the rest of it, but it didn't feel like that. And I know they were trying to go in a different direction. It just feels like Disney are just trying to kind of go, okay, well they've made this movie, let's try and claw back some money on it. They've watched it and thought, well, it's not that bad. We'll put it out there. There was a little bit interesting in the fact that the D23 website overnight put a story up about the movie, and then they put on there about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's like the newest entry. That got deleted very quickly because it's not part of the MCU. But again, so as far as Disney Plus goes, it won't be coming there straight away because it'll still be affected by the HBO deal because it's a Fox movie. So it could be years before it'll come. I think it will eventually be on Disney Plus because much like the X-Men movies in like the rest of the world that are all on Disney Plus, other than Logan and Deadpool, I think this one's just going to slide straight in there once it's available. But yeah, it looks fine. I probably will go see it at the cinema because it's a Marvel movie, but yeah, I'm not. I don't know. Yeah,
it's not a Marvel movie. It's an X-Men movie, and the X-Men have been so hit and miss. I can't justify it. I mean, I realized that they actually had a pretty good track record towards the end of the X-Men era. Logan, Deadpool 1 and 2, but then you also had X-Men Phoenix, which, while not a bad movie, wasn't also a good movie. It was a movie.
Yes, it's interesting where they go with all of this. I'm just in some way glad that this is like the pinpoint of like this is the end. Kind of felt like Dark Phoenix probably should have been the end, and this movie just, and also as well, I think because this movie was filmed like 25 years ago, they all look so much younger. I mean, I think this was filmed before the guy from Stranger Things was even in Stranger Things, and I think Maisie looks like she's definitely like so much younger in this one.
She's definitely younger than the last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It was actually a little. I knew it going into the trailer because I know how long this had been in production, but at the same time, I was like, that's not the person I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I've not even seen Game of Thrones, but I've seen them like on stuff promoted and going, "Yikes!" This. I mean, when was it filmed? It must have been filmed what?
I think like 2015 or 16.
Yeah.
Maybe I might be overestimating, but still, it's been a little while.
Well, it's been delayed at least 2 years. Yeah, because it was supposed to be originally coming out in April 1990. Oh, sorry,
not that far back.
Yeah, April 2018 was when it was originally supposed to be. And they started work on this one. Oh yeah, they pitched, and in May 2015 they originally signed on to the project, and filming took place in Boston in July of 2017. So
it's been sitting for a while.
This one's been. I mean, when the actors get onto the PR thing, they were like, "It's here." I remember filming this, but yeah, that's quite a way. You know, movies don't normally sit around in the can for that long.
I think you might be surprised by some movies, but not good movies. Good movies typically don't go through that much. It's called production hell for a reason, or limbo. If it's a good movie, it's gonna come out. If it's something that the studio is not confident in and want people to keep going back over and over again, it rarely ends well.
Yeah, But no. So nevertheless, that was on the trailer. So now let's move on to what we've been watching on Disney Plus this week. So what have you been watching?
A lot of stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. I made up for the fact that I didn't really watch all that much during the Christmas break when I had a lot of time. But it's mostly back catalog items. I didn't do most of the originals. It's stuff that I've been told to watch over the years. So I'm going to list off a handful of shows. I watched one episode of each just to kind of get a feel for them. Gravity Falls, Star versus the Forces of Evil, Amphibia. And then I also tried out the Owl House, which isn't on Disney Plus, but that's a new Disney Channel show, so it'll be there eventually. Kingdom of the White Wolf, which is a 3-episode National Geographic. I watched the first episode of that. Watched Destino, which was the Salvador Dali Walt Disney collaboration from a long time ago. And lastly, at least of the ones we'll talk about, or I'll talk about, is Loop, which is brand new. That's the new entry onto the field. Okay, so we'll talk about. So, which of those animated series did you like the most? Gravity Falls. So I've never seen it before. Everyone always says you need to watch this show. Even with just one episode, I can see why though. It's such a good first episode. Star versus the Forces of Evil was good enough that I'll keep going with that one. Amphibia, don't think I'm going to continue. I might give it one or two more episodes, but it didn't really grab me. Owl House is the same. Give it a couple more episodes to see if it finds a rhythm. Yeah, I do need to watch that Amphibia and Star versus or whatever that one is called, because there's a lot of noise about that show. Gravity Falls, I'm about 3/4 of the way through season 1. I haven't watched a huge amount of classic content on Disney Plus because I've been kind of catching up on the Disney Plus originals because I've done a few episodes. I'm completely caught up on Pick of the Litter, so I watched like episode 3 and episode 4. High School Musical, the series, completely caught up and finished that one. Just finished the finale last night on that one, so I'll be talking about that in a minute. Also watched another episode of Encore, and I'm just trying to think what else. Been a bit of one of those weeks this week of just like, if I was sitting there going, right, okay, Runaway season 2, I want to start watching that, and there's a few bits and pieces just like, and the main key reason for this is because I've been playing Jedi Fallen Order that I got for Christmas, and it's kind of a game where I've been playing like 2 hours a night, purely focused on it. So I've not really been watching a huge amount of TV because I think I'm pretty much onto the second to last level now. So I'm guessing by the end of next week I'll be done with this game. But where if I'm playing some games, I'll put shows and stuff on the side. You know, if I'm doing SimCity or wrestling games or something like that, I'll watch something. I'll do two things at once. But this video game has kind of been like, no, it's a Star Wars video game. It's got a fantastic story, and I'm completely engrossed in it. And I think and I've not really had a game like that for months where I've been like completely like, no, I'm loving the story element to this game, and I want to focus on it. But yeah, so that's been kind of the reason. But I've been watching a few bits. I've been watching at least a couple of shows a night while kind of editing together the daily news show and just putting the bits and pieces. But my hope is now that with High School Musical gone, I'm going to start up the Runaways and plow through those 2 seasons before, hopefully before the Clone Wars starts, and kind of that's my main aim, I think, to get them out of the way, because while I will watch Diary of a Future President, I don't think it's going to be quite as high on my list of things to watch. But let's move now on to Loop. So what did you think of that one? I thought it was pretty good. It's interesting that actually 2 of the Spark Shorts dealt with autism or nonverbal people. I thought this was the better of the 2. Overall, good show, or a good short. My one, you know what? I have one qualm with it, but I'll wait. Because that'll be a discussion item. What did you think? I thought it was very well done. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good in terms of what it was trying to say the story about, showing off her, with how she was struggling, him trying to work out how to communicate with her, and just the relationship between them, of how that built up. Of him kind of learning about it, because obviously he's coming in, he didn't really know anything about her, what she does, and she's trying to struggle. And I thought it was very well done. And I sort of got to the end of it, and I was like, that was
that was nice. That was it felt a little bit more of like an educational short, because it felt like I walked away going, okay, I felt like I learned a little bit more about like nonverbal people, with autism, that kind of. I know the thing is, apparently with autism as well, the spectrum's really wide. So like what one person's like, another person might be very different. I know quite a few people with autism, and they're all very different. They've all, you can't really put, right, that's what they're all like. It's not. But I watched this one here, and I did a review last night after watching it, and I go, I really hope that people sit down with this and watch it. Maybe if you've got somebody that in your family, or maybe you've got someone that or just in general, just sit down, let you, watch it with your kids, and then maybe watch the extras, because I think the extras are very important on this one. And then you can use this kind of almost like a little bit of a educational thing of being able to use this. And I think the whole of this Pixar Spark Shorts are a bit like that, where you could go through and have a little bit of a discussion afterwards, because they've got much more of a theme, a current theme, than shorts that we used to. It's not about just having a laugh and being entertained. There's a moral thread kind of. I think this one did the better job of being the most in your face. This was like, this is the situation. It's not something that you'd want. I don't think this is going to be something that kids are going to want to watch constantly. Whereas I think like Smash and Grab felt like a traditional short. It had a theme and a story, but kids that would go over their heads. With Loop, there was no going over your head. This was hitting you, because like we said about Float, which was also about the artist's kid having autism, but he changed autism to being Float, and that was a special power, and like, why can't you be the same, and all the rest. They kind of use it as a metaphor, whereas this, they didn't do that. They were straight up in, and I thought that was very, very well done. I was really glad, and it felt like the best of the experimental thing. It felt like an experiment. It felt like they were pushing boundaries and trying something different and doing something, whereas some of the other shorts were more traditional.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is an educational or show and tell kind of story, where it puts you in the mind frame of this autistic kid. There are a couple scenes which you see from her point of view, which is interesting. Obviously, there's no way to know how accurate that is, but it felt accurate, and that's kind of more important in this situation. I especially liked how frustrated the boy was getting, because the first time you deal with a person with autism, like when they're really far down the spectrum, especially nonverbal, you don't know how to treat it, because they don't react in any way that you're used to at all. You're used to just having a conversation. I don't like the way you're saying that. Oh, well, I'll change the way I say it, or whatever. No, you have a nonverbal autistic person way down on the spectrum, and it's like, you might as well be speaking two different languages filtered through a third language, and the person listening doesn't even want to listen in the first place.
No. I mean, I think for me, of like in the real world, of with my real business of having customers, we have a lot of carriers bringing people up to our place, because they can sit outside, and they've kind of, and I get this a lot of people that can't speak, and the way they communicate and point, and just that whole thing. So there's that kind of thing again of what your real life situation can really change of how you view this, because if you're in an office and you go there, and you might never come into contact with this situation all the time, whereas like for me, and this is the same thing of what I've been saying, like with guide dogs thing with Pick of the Litter, when it's in your real world, it's much more realistic. It's much more, I think that's where I maybe was coming at it, was going, I deal with this nearly almost on a day-to-day basis. So it was like, okay, I really kind of got that side of things a much more, and really kind of, oh, this is a great way of an educational tool of getting this information out there of how to deal with people differently and stuff. And I just thought that worked really well.
See, okay, so this is actually tailing into the qualm that I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to modify that. I have 1.5 qualms. I'm going to start with the lesser one, which is this girl should not be in a canoe with a person who's not trained to deal with her at all. period. But obviously we wouldn't have a story without that.
No.
So we'll just kind of overlook that. But yes, please do not put people who've never dealt with autistic people as the primary caretaker in any given situation. That is seriously irresponsible. But again, there'd be no story without it. So whatever.
Yeah.
But the other one, this is the real qualm, is when you have somebody this far onto the spectrum. I've dealt with them before. You've obviously dealt with them at work as well. The issue I have, and again, it has to happen because of the story. But it kind of conveys this idea that, you just need to find the trick. You need to find the one thing that you can do, and all of a sudden it may not make sense, but it makes more sense. It's like, that's not really how it works. When you have someone on the spectrum or on that extreme end of the spectrum, there is not a trick. There is not, you just have to find the magic, the reed, the wind and the willows kind of thing that he found that made them connect. It's like, no, they might as well be on Mars, trying to communicate. And it can kind of send the wrong message that there is a way to get through to it. And I've seen this in real life. There was a kid, young girl that I knew who was very far onto the spectrum, and her parents just could not accept that there was not a cure. There was not a way that they could get through to her. And it honestly, it broke my heart. And this reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah, I think this is, again, is everyone's going to have different ways of looking at this depending on your history, with your background, of what you're used to. Obviously kids, that are unfamiliar with this will be different. But I'm also liking the idea that the short actually is creating this thing in your head when you're watching it, of bringing all that up and showing you, because sometimes you watch these shorts, and I kind of bring up maybe Smash and Grab maybe as a bit more of the one to go for, where that didn't. You watched it, and went, that was fun, okay, that was good, and then you moved on. Didn't really get the brain ticking. Float was one of those things of, that was great. It wasn't until I watched the extras of and we mentioned before when I think it was Wind came out, I had completely missed the theme, because it was all about migration and immigration and people I'd missed all that. I didn't get that at all from the short, and just thought it was someone stuck down a hole and trying to get out, and it felt like something from Inside Out. Again, this didn't. You knew this was. They weren't. It wasn't hiding it. Same thing with Pearl and Kitbull. They were hitting you with that theme straight in the face, and you were not dodging it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. There is no subtlety to this. This is straight up, this girl is autistic, this guy is not. He has no idea how to deal with it. And you need to kind of change the way you view the world to meet in the middle. And so I've got the qualms, but I do think at the end of the day, simply introducing people to just how out there, how problematic autism is more important than getting the little tiny bits, because it is something that needs to be discussed. It is something that people need to be aware of, because you probably will encounter autistic people in the world if you haven't already, and just simply being aware that they function differently in the mind than we do, and that there is this divide. It sucks, and just do your best to kind of work with it.
Well, this is as well. I mean, over this last year, we were doing the Disney Kingdom podcast with Matt, and he suffers from autism as well. Of just like there are so many different levels of this, and I've known people of they can be very high functioning, where they are incredibly intelligent, and they can. It's just social skills they can be different at, and there's so many different levels on this spectrum of where they fall into. And I've got friends and stuff as well where there's like borderline of where this sits in, of where they sign, and there is such a big broad thing. And I'm just really glad that Disney have kind of given these shorts a way of telling these stories, because this wouldn't have been released at the cinema. It couldn't be turned into a feature-length movie that they'd spend millions on. But shorts, great. But I do recommend as well watching the extras with this one, because they also show the girl that did the voices on the actual of how, because they actually they went out to a local girl and they recorded her doing her you know, sort of all the noises that she was making and how she communicates, and they were communicating with her. They tried taking her to the studio, that didn't work. They had to go to her house, and I think it's a very important thing to watch that as well as part of this kind of thing of a little bit of education about this one. But I think as a whole, it's nice to be able to sort of sit there and have a discussion about this, and then a little in, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to bring, you know, all of this up to the thing. Yeah, you're supposed to entertain, and kids can watch it, and you know, people might watch it and go, yeah, okay, whatever. But I'm really glad that it kind of brought out this whole other side to it.
Yeah, and I think even if just a handful of people, they watch this with their child, and you know, talk to the child after what's so weird about this girl, why she is that way. Just educating children even a little bit makes a huge difference.
And not just children, actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
Not just children, actually for adults. I think there's a lot of adults need to watch these kind of things as well to kind of bring it into their world, so they treat, you know, they understand it better. Because there's a lot of people, you know, especially older people, that don't maybe understand what all of this is because they've, you know, they've not dealt with it, or, you know, because that's the other thing as well. You have this whole other side of things of, you know, people that are completely sort of unaware of all of this and kind of, you know, maybe, you know, just go, oh, you know, I've seen that so many times myself of people not maybe understanding, and things like this can really help. It's just, in some ways, it's like, it's a shame you know, it's like Disney Plus need to get this stuff out there, but I'm wondering how many people are actually going to see it. I don't know. It's one of those things. I thought it was a really good one. It's definitely the top tier end of the Pixar SparkShorts in terms of the experimental side of things. For me, that was probably one of the better ones. In terms of actual shorts, out of the 6 that we've seen so far, because there are some more to come, I think. To sit down and watch again, I don't know if I would watch that one again the same way, or something like I would say, yeah. I think I'd go back to Smash and Grab is the one that if I was just to pick one on, that was the one that's the most one that you could slap in front of a movie at the beginning at a cinema, to me.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's not actually necessarily a compliment too, because it's kind of like saying, "Oh, it's the blandest one of the group, so it's the one that's least likely to cause anyone offense."
Well, it's not, yeah, but it's also it's still a fun, good.
It's perfectly fine. It's not on the same level as some of the other ones.
No, but let's move now on to something else. So, High School Musical, the series,
the finale.
Yeah. That one ended last night. So we've now had 10 episodes. It is coming back for a second season this fall with 12 episodes. Obviously they all ended with them putting on the musical, and pretty much as you'd expect, it's kind of like everything turned out good. I really enjoyed this series. You know, I've said this, I think I've been saying this every week since it came out. I'm just like, this was the series I did not think I was going to like when I saw all those trailers back when they all started. This was the one I was going, I'll watch the first episode, but nah, I'm not interested. That's it. I've watched it every single week and really enjoyed it. I've loved all the characters. It's not high school. Yeah, they did the High School Musical performance and all the rest of it, but it was different. And I think they showcased lots of different things. They showed lots of different bits and pieces off. There was like a great moment at the end in the credits, and with 2 of the characters kind of getting together, which has been building towards the whole time. And this is how I was just really just quite pleased with the series. I do think a lot of people need to check this one out and maybe not write it off just because you see the High School Musical aspect to it. But yeah, it was a really nice to have a teen drama in there. But I mean, some of the teens are kind of borderline 20-somethings. But yeah, I was really enjoyed this. I mean, this is where I'm looking at like Diary of a Future President going, that's not set. They're that little bit younger where it doesn't quite think. But no, I really enjoyed this series. I was really glad with it.
Yep, I'll be checking it out probably in the next couple of weeks, since we are in kind of the doldrums right now. I still wasn't completely won over by the original episode, which is the one I've seen, but I'll give it a shot. I still hate the main character though.
Yeah, she kind of
No,
goes up and
not
down.
she. He. Sorry, I'm talking about the guy who.
Oh, Ricky. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he should change your mind by the end of it. I wasn't still. It was the girl that I was actually. She kind of became less nice as the episode went on. Same thing with Gina. Actually, they kind of all had a little journey, as they went along, and just as a whole, I was really. It was one of those series, as I said. If you haven't watched it or you've been put off by the High School Musical side of things, you need to treat this almost like an entirely different series. The connection to High School Musical, the original ones, literally is just the music. That's about it, really. It's some of the music that they are performing. The storylines, you can just forget it. It's a completely they could change. If they changed the music, it could have been, I don't know. It could have been Sound of Music, the musical, the series. It could have been, I don't know, Wicked. It could have been anything like that had they changed that musical.
Kind of like we expected Encore to be, kind of, until that came out.
Yeah, I must admit, I watched another episode of Encore. What was last week's episode? One of those series with them, though, I need to literally watch one episode every few weeks because they are very, very samey. They are very. It's like watching it every few weeks is fine, but I can't. Back week to week to week, I was just it was pretty much the identical story with the identical issues every single week.
I haven't even watched the first episode, honestly.
I would say that you should probably watch one episode so you can kind of, because I think we've only got 2 more episodes left of the season, but it's like that. It's odd. It's like Jeff Goldblum. I've not watched that one for a few weeks now, and I'm like, right, I need to catch up on all of these originals. But it is that kind of thing of Encore is like, I don't mind it, but I need breaks in between them because to stretch out a little bit. But yeah, so I think that's kind of been the main ones I've been kind of watching. Oh yeah, Pick of the Litter. I've done 4 episodes. We're up to the latest episode last night. The puppies are still being trained. They're still cute. We're much more into the actual guide dog training. They're into the final stages, showing off all the different steps and stuff. And I think this was really interesting. It literally the other day I was just heading home. As I left from here, there was actually 2 dog handlers with a guide dog doing the training right there and then. So, and they were doing so it's kind of, again, that's what I keep going back to, of like, it's so much more like realistic to me going, well, these people doing these tests. Well, I saw somebody doing this a couple of days ago, right, like 10 feet away from where I'm sat right now. So there's a lot of it's again, I'm finding this very interesting because I'm like learning what they're doing. And I think, again, there's just a personal interest in this. It's a bit fluffy, but I'm really enjoying this series as well. I probably would have watched it no matter what channel it was on, but it was really odd because there was this, they were teaching it and I kind of wanted to say to them, have you watched this series? No, it's not out yet, isn't it? No. It was like the other night I was at my gaming club and we were playing Star Wars miniature games, and it's like I'm sort of saying, have you watched The Mandalorian? No. Have you watched The Mandalorian? No. Have you? Because it's not obviously not out here. No. And then one guy goes, yeah, I've like downloaded it, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna ask how, but it's like I'm like, I've missed that bit of where we can't have that discussion with everyone because nobody really in the UK's got it properly. So, they're all having to do ways of getting it. And yeah, that was the one thing at the minute of going. There's been a couple of times this week where I've kind of wanted to say, no, you can't watch it. It's like I said to my dad, oh yeah, you can't watch it. It's been really annoying.
I don't want to go through the trouble of setting up a VPN in your house for you that you will never be able to use again.
It's not quite going to work, but yeah, it was. So I'm really glad when Disney Plus actually launches properly in the UK in about the end of March. Whereas then we can. Has there been a couple of instances where in real world life it would have been nice to have just gone, oh, that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's been kind of what I watched. I'm just wondering if I watched anything else. And I've been kind of, like I said, been trying to catch up on a couple of those series and kind of get back in the groove. And as I said, Jedi Fallen Order has kind of taken over my evenings for since Christmas, which actually it's been kind of fun to play as well. And I'd love them to do something with those characters. That would be kind of interesting.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yes.
But talking about puppies, Kingdom of the White Wolf, National Geographic's 3 episodes. I've only seen the first episode. Really, really good. You're not going to learn an incredible amount the wolves. It's more about the narrative of finding them and photographing them and the journey that this particular photographer has trying to get good footage of them. But even with that, it's really well done. Beautiful scenery, beautiful shots of the wolves. And although we follow the story of one little mini pack of wolves in the first episode, it does seem like the second episode is going to follow a completely different group because he kind of has to leave his camp. But yeah, check this one out. For anybody who likes documentaries or wolves, it's just gorgeous photography.
That's the thing. And I'm really hoping that at some point, because when you go on to like the National Geographic's website, it's starting to push you more towards like, you know, if rather than having all the episodes on there, they're like, oh, okay, you need to go over to Disney Plus. But some of these shows are like, they really need to be pushing this element much more towards the adults, I think. About there are, you know, it's not all the Disney Channel shows. I think they're in this like weird bit at the minute where they're trying to work out how to promote what, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's just that kind of weird thing of like there's a lot of, you know, we had like Life Below Zero and all these like series dropping on there. But I think until we start getting to that Hulu point where we're getting them day and day or the same day, I think that's where we really will be a lot better rather than just sort of, because whenever I look for the National Geographic thing, I just see all these like, you know, we get things like the Lone Star Vet and all these like focused on one person. And it's like, okay, I need to kind of jump into that and I need to do that and I need to do that. But again, that's not so good when you suddenly get like 10 seasons of like 5 different shows all drop at the same time. And you're like, well, where do I start? What do I do? Because, for example, I mean, the National Geographic one that I would recommend, Hostile Planet. That's a fantastic series for if you're into animal documentaries. I would like to see the kind of this side of element of the National Geographic stuff pushed a little bit more, especially by like maybe by their social media a bit more, because they've generally focused more on the originals. But I think until we get to day and day or within 24 hours, I don't think we're going to start seeing much of that. I think they're going to be holding off that for a while. Things like the Owl City, or the Owl, you know, the Owl House. You know, it's like it's debuted on the Disney Channel this week. You know, to me, it's like you should have had that episode available on Disney Plus as well. I mean, that's to me is like going forward where they're going to need to get to. I know they don't want to right yet because they still want people watching the channels, but that's where we need to get to start getting this excitement going as well.
Yeah, I agree. They need to kind of encourage both platforms, and even if it was just put the first 2 episodes on Disney Plus and then be like, okay, the rest will be coming later, but until then you can watch it on Disney Channel, something like that. But baby steps.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, no, you look at it and go, well, with the ABC and FX, they're doing that with Hulu. They're doing it the day straight within the next day after it's available on Hulu. It's like we need to start doing that with National Geographic and the Disney Channel with Disney Plus. Of like, if you're doing it on some channels but not the others, it's like I do think that would be a massive help each week for Disney Plus to have constant new originals dropping. Because if you like, it's like now there's going to be a whole discussion with people going on about the Owl House, but it's going to lose that audience with Disney Plus until suddenly in 6 months' time when the whole season drops onto Disney Plus at the same time, it won't have the same buzz, but they've lost that opportunity. It's that odd. I think if they weren't already doing it on Hulu, but maybe they wouldn't have done that had they had full control of Hulu at the time. But I don't know. That's just so. It feels like they're missing that step with that.
I think they'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up this week's episode. So a big thank you for joining us on this one, as per usual. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Subscribe on the audios or YouTube. And we shall see you guys in another episode. Later.